So please focus on the screen that he's going to be sharing, and we welcome questions thereafter. Thank you, Ruan. You can go.
Thanks for that, Wasifa. I hope that all of you managed to follow along in that previous session. I hope I was going slow enough for you. But just for this session now, I'm just going to reintroduce myself because this recording will go out as an independent recording. So yes, I'm Ron Brunt, and I'm a Specialist Heritage Officer at HWC, and I'm just going to run through what it's like to actually apply via Sahris with the notification of intent to develop. So what I'm going to do is share my screen again. And if I could just kindly get a thumbs up in the chat that this is visible now. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So yes, we get back to the Sahris page. What I'll just do again, we'll just quickly log in. I think it is important to just show this process for the recording's purposes. So you type your username, your password, click on the captcha, and just click on login, not on create new account. And once you're logged in, you get to this applicant dashboard side. But when you want to apply, specifically submit a notification of intent to development for comment or for decision for HWC in terms of Section 38, the way to do that is to go to Applications. You click on Make an Application, get a comment or decision on development in the Western Cape Province. You click Next, and you get to this form. So when you go into this form, it's a very interactive web form that has a lot of detail and explanation built into the form. So before we actually start filling this out, I'm just going to quickly show you two things. So if you go to the HWC website and you click on making an application and you click here, it shows you the minimum requirements in terms of what is required for a NID. This is going to be updated now because these requirements have changed a bit. As indicated in the earlier session, we now have access to things like a paleosensitivity map and a topographical map on Sahris, so you don't have to submit one as an applicant anymore. And the checklist that we've also compiled, and I'll share this with you now, and we will make this available to everyone to make things easier. This is our new NID checklist. So this checklist is, again, explaining what I'm going to be doing now in a bit of detail, and just to help you as an applicant make sure that you are prepared with all the documentation that's required so you can meet the minimum requirements that your assessment has no delay in terms of processing. So this document explains, the account creation process on Sahris and what I've just done in terms of clicking, and then just some basic information in terms of there is a slight difference when you apply in terms of Section 38.1 or 38.8. And for those of you that do not know the difference there, so in terms of Section 38.8, that is when other legislation is triggering the requirement of an impact assessment. So in 95% of the cases, that would be NEMA, and it's getting environmental authorization through something like an environmental impact assessment or a basic assessment process. In those cases, we as HWC are not the authority that makes the decision. We're a commenting body. However, when it comes to 38.1, so 38.1 is specifically when we are actually the deciding authority. So then we'd be making the decision. So it's just about the difference there. In terms of what that means for you as an applicant, it's just that with 38.8, it means that some documentation might not be required, and it's typically sort of proof of ownership information like a title deed, like landowner consent, power of attorneys and stuff, because in those things, the authorizing authority, usually DEDP, could also be someone like DMRE. They're the ones that are going to be checking up on that kind of stuff. From our side, we want stuff to help assess the potential heritage impacts so that we can decide whether an impact assessment is required or not. So this checklist will be made available to you. We've recently approved it. And yes, so what I've done is I've grabbed this checklist and I have compiled some documentation in a little folder so that all of my documents are ready for submission. So I'm just going to be using the documents that are captured here. So the way that the application process works on Sahris, if we just go back to it, and again, I'll just show you, you click on application, make an application, get a comment in terms of Section 38, click on the Western Cape one, and you'll get our specific form, and then you can click on that form. And that brings you to this bit. We had some queries during the testing of this launch in around June, where a few people were worried about having multiple of these going at once. So Jake's team built in a functionality where you can have multiple things going. And just to guide you, if you go to your applicant dashboard, you can see your different submissions here. So if you have multiple ones going, this is how you can access them. So again, you can just click on them and see at what stage those are at to understand what you need to do, and you can just edit them as is required. So again, you can have multiple ones going at the same time, so there's no worry about sort of having multiple things stuck on the system. We've really tried to think about our user base, but again, we welcome feedback, especially in the Q&A session. If there's some functionality that you feel we've missed, that it's sort of a critical red flag for how the system is meant to work for our user base. But yeah, when you actually start this application procedure, you'll see that we've, for those of you that are used to our normal form, this is almost copied from that, just updated a little bit. So it's just explaining what the process is in terms of the NID. And importantly, we have this floating on every page to make it clear in terms of our fees. So our fees were actually, there was a notice that went out in July, and this is just how you can access those fees and understand what's happening. So this documentation explains exactly how the payment works. If you open that, you get 3 PDFs. I'm just going to open them individually to show you. So the first PDF is explaining how you make the payment. So it used to be that you'd need to send an email to hwc.hwc at westerncape.gov.za. You'd have to get a reference number, and then you have to make a payment to your bank with that reference number. It was quite a slow process. So we've managed to lean this a bit, and now you just need to mention the first cadastral unit that's part of your application and the municipal jurisdiction. So these examples just show you what that means. You could have, Farm 25 George or Earth 25199 Stellenbosch. So that's what we need on your proof of payment. And from our financial side, we can then allocate the payment. We're hoping that that might speed up the process a bit for quite a few of you. And then, yeah, all our banking details and things are captured on this. You also have the Gazette notice to just show you legally where we've actually come up with these fees in terms of it being regulated via the notice. And then just the actual sort of notice that as HWC communicates just in a nicer template what the fees are that are applicable. So in this case, this is the one to focus on, 1,500 Rand for a notification of intent to develop. So just make sure that you have that sorted, and it's always good practice to just have that prepped. So one of my prep documents is a proof of payment with those details already done. So just to show everybody, here it is. So when you start this process, you get the application screening. So this is just giving you a sort of a T's and C's in terms of saying what you're signing away. Don't worry, you're not signing away any kidneys. We're just providing some basic information here and giving permission that this information can be used to actually assess the application in terms of the NARA. So what you do is you click on the terms and conditions. That's this little slider is to say that you're accepting it. And the next thing you get is your application role. So we've designed this with, again, what 99% of you that will actually be applying will be using. And that would be that we have either an owner who is applying, a developer, or a consultant or representative. So I think in 80% of the cases, it'll probably be a consultant or a representative. And then we also have developers sometimes applying because a lot of them are involved in the process. They know how it works now. But yeah, we also have some owners applying. So you can just select whichever one applies to you. If you are the owner, you will see that there's kind of less information required in terms of things like having a power of attorney or a resolution, because you are actually the landowner. You are the one that is applying. But yeah, just as an example for now, I'll just say that I am the consultant or the representative. And then you'll see that this warning message appears here because the information that's captured here is being pulled from your profile. I've just, to remain anonymous, I've deleted my ID number from my profile and my other contact information. But the idea is that the system will generate this based on whatever your profile up here is generated with. So it's important that your email address is captured correctly, because the notifications will be sent there, and the RODs that we capture will actually use this information. It automatically gets pulled in. But yeah, it's just so to warn you that that needs to be correct. And then once you're happy that it is correct, you confirm that it is correct, you can move on to the next step. And we've stratified it. So that means that we've just made this multiple sections just to make it clearer. And you can simply save this web form at any point. It is auto-saved, and you can return to it using your applicant dashboard. But this just helps you navigate everything a bit, and it's organized in a way that we believe makes sense in terms of how our old form looked and how we imagine people would structure this stuff. So section A is the details of the proposed development. So the first thing we talk about here is our case titles. So the case title is something that will be displayed, and it's also something that will be used when we actually search on the Applications Explorer function. So if you go to Cases Explorer here, you will see that the case titles, this is being populated from this. So whatever you type in here is going to be your case and how people can find it. So in this case, I've just prepped some things. So I'm just going to open that here and just copy this over. So my example case, and this is all fictitious. This is not a real development. It's just me playing around on the system, making a mock case to show you how this works. So let's just say we've got a 20-hectare housing development in George, and then we have the application type. So this is where that 38.1 or 38.8 thing applies. So again, are we the authorizing authority? Are we the commenting? Are we just commenting on it from the heritage side? Or the third option is that you might just be amending an approved HIA or an SDP. So you're resubmitting something that's been changed. This happens quite rarely. Please just contact us if this is a case that might apply to you. But these are going to be the main things that people will be using. So again, I can select either or, and I'll just show you some differences that happen. Because when you select this, you'll see here at the end of this form that there's these landowner details and you need to provide consent and stuff. And you'll see that when you change this to 38.8, this information is no longer a requirement because as we said, the proof of ownership isn't necessarily required when we're just commenting. Another authority will actually evaluate that. But yeah, let's just say that we're going through the 38.1 process. So the next thing is our 38.1 triggers. As many of you hopefully know by now, or if you don't, so Heritage Western Cape, the way that we interpret section 38.8 is that we require a 38.1 trigger to actually evaluate a NID. So if an impact assessment is being conducted in terms of 38.8, we also see one of these triggers in terms of 38.1. So this is a good way of screening whether you actually need to submit a NID or not. We've had quite a few EAPs submitting applications where they could have stopped at this process and simply sent us an email to just check if they actually need to submit one. So the main triggers, for those of you familiar with things, it would just be sort of a straight line development of 300 meters or more, a bridge or a similar structure like a causeway that exceeds 50 meters in length, and then any development or activity that will change the character of a site that is 5,000 meters squared in extent or more, 3 or more existing urban or subdivisions, or 3 or more urban or divisions thereof that have been actually consolidated in the past 5 years. And the last one, yeah, rezoning of 10,000 meters squared or more. So the other thing we've recently just built in is just a small thing to stop people from continuing. If they actually say, oh, none of these actually apply to us, and they click none of the above, it's just warning messages. So the form is filled with these little messages to really try and help you as an applicant. We're trying to really make this process as simple as possible for everyone. But yeah, if you click none of the above, you'll just be directed to send an email to actually check whether you need to submit a NID or not. But let's say that in this case, yeah, we have our 20-hectare housing development, so we'll probably have the associated infrastructure, so pipelines that are greater than 300 meters. So this is applicable, and the site's 20 hectares, so definitely change the character of a site that's greater than that. And then we have the detail of the proposed development. Again, this is public information. So if you go to the Cases Explorer and you check some of the cases that exist on here, you will see that the case title is caught up here, and then that description that you provide will be captured over here. So if you go back to that application form, whatever you fill in here will actually be displayed and be available to the public. So again, in this case, I've just pre-populated something just to make the process a bit quicker. But let's just say this is actually a 38.8 now, because we are getting a basic assessment done. DEDP is actually the authorizing authority because we're clearing indigenous vegetation. There's a NEMA trigger, and we're now doing a pre-application because HWC has an agreement with DEDP where before the environmental authorization kicks in, you need to submit an application to DEDP. So yeah, this proposal is for our 20-hectare ground level only housing development. So just a rough description of what this might be. You can say things like, it's in line with maybe some kind of development framework, and that it aligns with the needs of the area as affordable housing is now required with the growth of George. Again, completely fictitious, but this is just to show you what kind of detail we're looking for under proposed development. Then these questions are related to, let's say, bigger national picture stuff. So so Eskom, for example, with the energy crisis that we found ourselves in, they're really interested in things like data on renewable energy projects. So again, Heritage can contribute to this. So you'll see these kind of questions. Don't be afraid of them. I mean, this is quite quick. Is it a renewable energy project? In my case, it would not be. If you clicked yes, there's no extra things to fill out. There will be this sort of NEMA-derived classification thing. Again, this is data reporting that they're using. In this case, you can just say none. And then you can just say that it is just housing or something. This isn't incredibly important unless you are actually doing any of these kind of stuff. Technically, it would be transformation of land as well, and then indigenous vegetation, that's our NEMA trigger. But again, you can just fill in multiples of these, and it's not super important. And you can also have other development types added, like housing. So use this, again, play with it. It's not super important from our processing side, but this is data that ultimately assists with how heritage is seen and managed at sort of the national level, especially from other organizations and from the presidency side in terms of disasters and how we're contributing to development in the country. The next thing is, again, estimated construction cost or the value of the development upon completion in rands. Again, you don't need to have this perfectly. These are estimates. We're just collecting data that ultimately help us to motivate for how important heritage is as an industry, and how, again, it's contributing to the economy. So let's say this is worth 80 million or something. Again, fictitious things. And then, again, you can see because it's a 38.8, you don't need this detail. Random person and then random email address entered there, just to show you how to do this. So once you fill in the stuff, but let's say that during this process, there was something that I forgot to fill out. So let's say the details of the proposed development, I forgot to fill this bit out. As you can see, it's an asterisk and you have to fill it out. If I click next, you'll get this warning and it takes you to the bits. See how it became red. So you need to fill out all of those details. So if you leave anything out with an asterisk, the form stops you from continuing. And then you can go, oh, I forgot to click details of other triggers. So it's a NEMA trigger and DEDP is actually the one doing it. And this is actually a pre-application phase. So just to show you that the form is designed in such a way to really stop people from submitting incomplete applications. This might feel like it puts the onus on the applicant to get them to submit more information. But ultimately, what we're trying to achieve with this is ensuring that only complete applications are reaching HWC. So we're trying to reduce the amount of incomplete stuff that we need to process. So you have officers actually spending more time checking out spending more intricate time assessing the applications and whether impact assessments are required. So you're getting better heritage management from the processing side. And then also from your side, there's less delays in terms of the developments because you're actually able to submit all the minimum information and the form is forcing you to do that. So I hope that everybody can see how that works and the reason behind that. So yeah, now we've actually filled in those things. It should allow me to continue. And then we get to our site details bit. So one of the most important things here is this KML file. And I've had a few people request assistance with creating this. It's a very simple thing to create. I'm actually going to, I think we have enough time in this session. I want to, as I said at the start of this, I want to be slow and intentional with this. So I'm going to just quickly show everybody a simple way of creating a KML file. So it's also captured on this video. But let's say that, yeah, you need to now capture this KML file for your thing. Google Earth Pro is free to download for anybody. You can just go into Google, type in Google Earth Pro, download it. And it's one of the simple GIS systems to use. You don't need to be any kind of GIS specialist to use it. I've had meetings with several heritage practitioners. A few of you are actually here right now, and some of you might be able to give a thumbs up to say that, yes, this does work. But just to show you how to create a KML file using Google Earth Pro. So if you go to Google Earth Pro, and I'll just display it on the screen right now. So let's say we have Google Earth Pro open. And what you can do in Google Earth Pro is just zoom into the area. So in my case, I've got this fictitious George development happening. It's completely fictitious. None of this is real. And let's say I want to create a KML file. So a KML file is just a way of displaying the GIS data on Sahris right now. And the way to do it is there are all these simple tools available. And the simplest one is this thing called Add Polygon. I hope all of you can see that. So just at the top there, this toolbar has this thing called Add Polygon. So if you click that, and let's just say that is the name of it, you can keep this open on the side and without closing this. So once you've clicked that without closing this, you can create a few dots and it starts creating this area for you. And what you can also do just to check that you're in the right place, you can confirm things like this. So I know that mine's sort of a 20-hectare development. Let's say it starts at that road. I know that it's going to cross up to there roughly. Again, a very fictitious example here. But this is, say, my development area that I'm going to be working in. And you can add more dots and then drag them. As you can see, there's lots of ways of doing this. But let's say that we want to create one over here that's sort of multiple ones. You can also create, oh, apologies. You can just do that, and then you can say there's one. But you can also simply create another one like that, two. As you can see, these are easy to create. And then what you want to do is, let's say you've created these. You'll see them come up as layers on the left here. And these layers is where the magic happens in terms of the KML creation. So what you just do, so let's say this was number 1. We want to focus on number 1. You will right-click it. You'll click here on Save Place As. And then you can literally just save it as a KML file. You can select that here. And then you can just say that this is, saved as 1. And then you have a KML file that can be uploaded. It's a very simple process that, again, if you are struggling with it, there are YouTube videos out there, or you can contact me. But this was just to hopefully capture this a bit better in terms of what we're looking at. I'm just going to close that. And now that I have a KML file to upload, I can just upload it over here. And what will happen here, now that this is linked, when you go on the cases, you'll see things like this being displayed. So if we go back to it, so we now have our KML file. The next thing is the set lat lon and place location on a map. So it used to be that you didn't have to upload a KML file to get your application processed. We've now made it a minimum requirement because it really helps us to see the extent of the developments and what might be happening. So this is now your minimum requirement, but we still have this built in just because some people might struggle a bit with this. And this isn't too important, but it's just to give you a rough idea. The easiest way for me, I always say, is go on the map and you'll get this little map viewer. You can enlarge your map. You can make it a satellite view if you want to make things easier for you. And you can zoom out on the map. And mine was just in George, so I'll literally just go all the way over here to George. And it's just to give us a quick snapshot of where it is. It's another way that content is just captured on Sahris. And you can just plot your little dot there. And that is a very simple way of making sure that you're filling in this little section. But again, it's not a minimum requirement. As you can see, the KML file is the important thing. And in terms of site address, again, we're just being fictitious here. None of this actually exists. But just to give you an idea of what kind of information we're looking for you to fill in there. And then the development footprint. So in this case, it's in the title, we've got, 20 hectares. This is I've had some varied feedback from some of you about this. At the moment, we're just keeping this in because it helps us keep track of the rough size of some of the developments that we're actually dealing with in a quicker snapshot than having to extract data from the KML files. But yeah, so for now, please just fill this in. It's really simple and it is approximate. You don't need to have it that accurate. If you just say sort of, 6,000 square meters, it doesn't need to be 6,212. So you can just fill that in. And then something that we use that's quite important is the zoning stuff. So zoning also helps us understand, is this actually fitting into the use of the area, and helps us evaluate change in character. So this example, let's just say that in terms of this one, the current zoning is that it is zoned for agriculture. The current use is that it's vacant, and the predominant land use of the area around it might be mixed. There's some residential, agriculture, and commercial use. So this kind of information just helps us also understand, does it fit into the environment? Is this environment maybe not right for a housing development because it's mainly agricultural? Oh, no, wait, there is some residential. So from the processing side, please try and capture the zoning information. It really helps us to evaluate these applications. But yeah, when you click next, you then get to the historical overview bit. This section has 2 bits to it. So there's a historical overview in terms of the actual case or the site. So what applications have been submitted that are referencing that site. So here, because we haven't been on Sahris as HWC, there won't really be a lot of content linked here, but you might have previously, let's say, applied for the demolition of a building on the site. So you will have the HWC case number, and the demolition, because the structure is older than 60 years, would have been, section 34. It was a demolition, and it was actually approved, and that was the date of the approval. So you can capture that kind of information here, just so that we're aware of the sort of previous history of what's been associated with this. At the moment, this is just for our interest and kind of helps with understanding the history of the site. And some applications will have had multiple applications or previous approvals or changes. So please just try to fill this into the best of your ability, but you can also capture that information in other places. This is just a quick snapshot. And then the other historical overview stuff, this is more in terms of the actual history of the site. So this is sort of a basic screening exercise. And I've just captured, again, written a fictitious little thing here of the brief history of a site, just to give everybody a rough idea of what we're kind of looking for. And it's just to explain sort of what pre-European occupation on the site might have looked like, the history of the general context of the area in terms of George, and then just some more info. For example, if you go on the NGI spatial data set and you look at historical photographs, you can see that that area was sort of farmed for a few years, but nothing before or after that on the area. So it's been vacant most of that time. So the whole idea here is just to capture some basic text so that we can quickly evaluate based on this. But there is a section where you can upload more intricate information. So many of you will do heritage screeners, or what Sahris calls it as a heritage scoping, and I'll show you where to upload that. This is just a brief text-based way of capturing some of that information so that it's quickly accessible for officers to view and use. So once you've filled that in, you can go to the next page, and you'll get to the identification of heritage resources. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is exactly what our current form actually says on it. It's just structured in a way to make it a bit more user-friendly. So in this case, if you tick something, so let's say that you saw that so George doesn't have high paleontological significance, it's gray on the map, but if you click on paleontology, a text box pops up so that you can describe this a bit better. And it'll only pop up if you actually select something. So in many cases, people might say that, yeah, we know that some of our heritage practitioners are very cautious when it comes to archaeological resources. So they'll click archaeological resources and just say, there is always a chance of finding, LSA, MSA, so later Stone Age and Middle Stone Age artifacts during earthworks. They might say something like that. So this is just a way of capturing that kind of information. And at the end of this, let's say if you've ticked multiple, there's a chance to just summarize it. So based on this, what is your summary of the anticipated impacts to heritage resources? So in this case, I'm going to say that, yeah, I'm just worried about archaeology. And I'm going to say that my summary of anticipated impacts to heritage resources would be none. I don't think there will be any impacts. And you can even say here none, or you can even say other and describe other heritage resources. But these are the general heritage resources that our form actually mentions. And we've tried to carry that over to make the procedure easier for everyone. But yeah, you'll click none. And then do you recommend an HIA and further specialist study? So in this case, I'll say no. And the recommendation is made by me in my professional capacity as a heritage practitioner. So you can just fill in this kind of information. The reason we're asking for this is that sometimes whether an HIA is required is that kind of thing. The recommendation might actually be made by an EAP. So some EAPs have more experience with heritage things, but some don't. And it's important for us when we process this to have this kind of information captured, just to check, has this person, we feel that they have the capacity to actually evaluate the heritage in terms of what we're asking here. So that is why we're also asking for this information. But again, very simple to fill out. And I hope that this makes sense. And please be detailed. It might be that, yeah, you're actually worried about something bigger. So let's say that you know that there might have been a place which an oral tradition is attached. There is a river at the back of the site. So you might say that there might have been some initiation rituals happening there, and you can expand on that here. And you can also kind of screen out here whether you think a heritage impact assessment is required or not. So again, really just describe the potential impacts, try and identify them here, and then the summary provide us with that. But yeah, for now, let's just move on by having this as the example. And then you get to the supporting documentation. And again, what I'm going to do here is just, again, refer to my checklist. I've got all of this kind of information captured because I've already prepped it in my little folder here. So all of that information is ready for me to just upload quickly. So here, what I'll just do is I'll click here. So I need the first thing I'm going to upload is the title deed. So in this case, I just upload the title deed. There's an SG diagram. And again, because this is a 38.8, ownership information is not a minimum requirement, but you can still upload it, especially if it's relevant. So the SG diagram, for example, we'll upload that. The photographs, this is an important thing to have. And it's something that I've actually had a few queries about. So this is generally formatted as a photograph tab. So I've seen a few people click on choose files here, and there's nothing being displayed in their prep docs. But it's because of this bit where it says image file. So just click on all files, and then you can get your PDFs to work. Whereas some of these are formatted as PDF things. And this is something that we are chatting to the Sahris team to sort out. But here you'll see the PDFs pop up. But here with photographs, we know this is an issue with image files popping up. So just change that to all files. And then you can upload your annotated photographs as well. If there's an SDP, that's relevant to the site, you can upload that there. When there's additional information pertaining to the heritage of the site. So this is extra kind of stuff, but we just want to make sure that, again, this is, let's say you've done a little bit of research, you can upload this here. But if you want something to be made public, so as a heritage report, I'll show you where to capture that now. But yeah, if you have any additional information stuff captured here, you can just upload that here. If there's specifically documents that you really do not want publicly available to have limited access, you can upload those here. And then the proof of payment stuff, you can upload here. So my proof of payment, as I said, you followed those instructions that I showed you earlier. And once you have all of this captured, you can, again, it saves as a draft, and you can come back to this form. You can use that link to maybe share it with your client if they want to make sure that they're happy with the information that you are providing here. And you can also go back to all the various sections to make sure you've captured everything properly. I'm just adding this here as the title quick, just so that it's easier for the Sahris team to delete at a later stage. But yeah, just to show you what this looks like. And then when you are ready, you can go on supporting documentation and hit submit. And when you hit submit, you'll see the status message say here, the new submission has been added now. So this has now been submitted. And then you can go on your dashboard and actually see, oh, there, the RB test on this one has been submitted. And again, you can just go into it and look at it. And this is where I want to now note some extra things. So once you have submitted, as Wasif has already indicated, we usually allocate within 1 or 2 days to a case officer. Before the case officer has reviewed it, you can still go into this form once you have submitted and edit it in case something was missing, or maybe there was a document that you just decided you'll submit so long because you've deadlines to meet and you're waiting for, say, the proof of payment to be sorted. So you just uploaded maybe a placeholder or something, so it's been submitted. This is just a way where you can go back and add that before it gets reviewed. So just to show you how to do that, again, you go to the case and you can just click on the form here. You can click on edit and you can edit it. As soon as a case officer has reviewed this, though, they will lock this form. You can no longer do that. Then the only way to add new information to this case is by clicking on add an additional submission to case. So you'll only have access to this if it is your case. I'll just quickly go to another case. So we'll go back to the Cases Explorer tab here. So if you go to Cases Explorer, and let's say this is not one of my cases, but it is another case that exists. And you'll see that this is one of those other cases, and there's also this kind of stuff showing the official use. So when you add additional submission and heritage reports to cases, you can do that. So in this case, where's my case gone? This one. So in this one, when you add an additional submission, again, you just need to make sure you're clicking your T's and C's, and the type of submission will differ. Maybe it's a proof of payment, maybe it's a permit report. So I know I had some questions about how do I submit a work plan. You can do it via this function. Maybe it's something like an amendment or a correction. Maybe something has changed. You notice something was erroneously submitted. Use the additional submission function to do this. Again, what this does is it creates a way of transparency because we can see when things are submitted. The case officer gets on their dashboard, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. When somebody submits additional information, the case officer gets something on their dashboard, and it really creates a transparency in terms of accountability on the officer side to make sure that they're actually doing these things in time. But yeah, you can add that information. Again, there's image upload, submission documents, confidential docs, proof of payment, all of these things that you can upload and add extra information, and then you can hit submit, and then it is actually associated with that case. So I'll just show you one other thing now. The other big thing, and you'll see this with cases from users that know the system quite well already, and that is the heritage report function. So because we want to make heritage management transparent, the heritage report function exists because this notification of intent to develop form, as I was just trying to show you earlier, if I go to a case where I am not the applicant on the case, so this one, for example, was submitted by another user, you see how there's no form here. There is a form here visible for me, but there's no form visible here for me. And that's because I did not submit this one. But you can see there is a heritage report here that's been added to this case. So this heritage report is a heritage screener. As you can see, it's what SARA calls a heritage scoping thing. So if you go to your case and you click on Add Heritage Report to Case, many practitioners love doing a full heritage screening as part of their application, and they want that to be made public. This is how you can submit that, and also this is how you submit your heritage impact assessments. So when your case status here says, studies pending, and you as the applicant are now ready to submit your heritage impact assessment, your public participation has concluded, your HIA is fully drafted, you're ready to submit it, you would go into your application and you would click here on Add Heritage Report to Case, and then you will fill all of this in. And again, it's very intuitive and it makes a lot of sense in terms of what we're asking. And then you can, just upload your HIA, your screener, whatever it is, and that will be made public. So it really helps us manage heritage in the future. As Jake mentioned, this idea of sort of an integrated heritage management system, it means that future users can see, oh, they've got the neighboring farm, this person's already done work here. They can cite that report when they're conducting their heritage impact assessment for that site. So that's just a brief overview of extra functionality, and I hope I've gone into enough detail to show you how to actually apply. The last thing I'll just quickly show you. So here I'm actually logged into the applicant profile. I'll just very quickly switch over here. So this is my officer profile, and the officers have this extra thing called an officer dashboard where we can see extra information, and we have all these cases, and we can then go into those cases and we have extra views of the cases. I don't want to do that right now because I'll have special access and this is being recorded, so there will be some personal information captured. But just to give you a brief idea, the officers have extra information captured, so they can see every NID that's been submitted that's associated with HWC, those forms that you as an applicant cannot see. So as I was showing everybody here with this one, this is an application that was not submitted by me. I do not have access to that NID form, but the one that was submitted by me, this one, I can see that NID form here. So it's just to show you that security functionality that's built into the system. And again, when it comes to these things, I just want to reiterate, please play with the cases explore thing. If any of you like to keep sort of a finger on the pulse of applications that are happening, if any of you are interested specifically in HWC stuff, filter it that way. You can see things that are coming in, previous decisions that HWC might have made in the past. You can see all these close approved, close withdrawn. You can also see if there is an application that has some kind of, a studies pending thing. You, as a user, it is public access. You can actually go access that specific document that HWC requested at HIA, and you can see an AIA and a PIA was requested here. So you have access to all this information at your fingertips as a user of Sahris, and we really hope that you, as now sort of the heritage practitioners, the EAPs, the project managers, the interested and affected parties, all of you will actually end up using the system. You can see where we're trying to go with this. It is for the betterment of heritage management in general, and we are not perfect. We know that there are parts of the system that can be improved. We are actively working on it, and we always welcome feedback. I want to just thank those of you that have been open to engaging with me. Quite a few heritage practitioners have had one-on-one sessions with me where we have tried to improve this process. But I really just want to thank everybody that's been involved in this process so far, specifically from Sahris side. I think Jake and your team, Nancy, Ethan, Gertie, Bungiwe, Josh, I think that's everybody from the NIU. But just thank you so much for the work you've done, Clinton, as well from Sahris side. You've stepped in at other times, and it really has been fantastic working with Sahra in that way. And then, to the heritage practitioners, thank you for all your input so far. I hope that we can continue having this open discussion. From Heritage Western Cape side, we really are open to critique. We want to improve. We want to make things better for our users, but we hope you can also see where compromises cannot be made, because there's also a processing side in the background. So we really hope that we can have that open platform going forward. And then we'll now move on to Wasifa's section, where, as we say, we've got future things happening with HWC in terms of application. I've seen some questions about, 27 and 34, and Wasifa's going to briefly touch on that. And then I'll just take over for the last session, which will be our Q&A. So thank you so much for following along, and I hope that's been helpful. Over to you, Wasifa.
Thanks, Ron. And I think, there's a lot of people that are going to drop off now because everyone wanted to be here for your demonstration. So just to reiterate, a huge thanks to the team at Sahra. You've mentioned them all by name, and we've done this a million times. They've been extremely phenomenal over the past few months that we decided that we're moving on to Sahris, and really took the system by its horns and pushed to get it where it is. And to the public, your feedback in terms of the 38 soft launch was really, really valuable in order for Sahra. And I know Sahra has mentioned to us how they have rethought about other browsers' versions of their NID forms and their own forms. So that feedback is not just limited to Heritage Western Cape. It's stemming into the broader management of resources and the applicability of Sahris at the national level. So thank you very much for that. This is a quick one. What is the next steps for us as HWC and Sahris? So we are working on the section 27, 29, 31, 34, 35, and now 36 applications to be soft launched via Sahris. Sahris is doing a development upgrade in the next few weeks. So we're aiming to release that as soon as that update happens. That would also, sorry, I'm just getting a lot of background noise coming through. I just want to mute everybody. Apology for that. So we will be doing the same process as we did with the Section 38 applications, where we soft launched a basic application forms, asked for users to register and simultaneously submit to HWC's mailbox at the same time if you did have difficulties with the actual application process. But it is going to be much more better if you can use Sahris and then give us that feedback. as developments go with the system, we can't make changes every time there is a tweak that needs to be done. From a usability point of view, if you log into a system and every time there's a different aspect to it, it's going to get frustrating for you. So that's why the soft launches are very important for us, for you as applicants to use it. We can use that feedback and implement it when we hard launch. And then every few months, if there is drastic changes, we can do that and inform the public. But doing it on a weekly basis is not practical for us as officials, as well as you as the user base. So that's coming in October. And that would essentially be all our applications except our appeals process, which we will pull into, and then our conservation bodies in terms of registration and their back-end mapping will be also filtered into it. But our core mandate right now with Sahris is to be able to do the applications physically online, and you as a user has 24/7 access to the system and eliminating that ad hoc communications. So the stakeholder feedback during that time, please use it. Let us know how you find it. Positives and negatives are much appreciated. We just don't want to hear about oh it's good, but we need to know what exactly you're finding good about it. And we need to see where our general, if you're a first time once-off user and a person that submits to us 2-3 times a week, what that different type of mindset is in using it. So please, when we do send out that call for stakeholder feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. We will then sit together with Sahris as we did with the NIDS and fine tweak those and see how we can integrate it. Is it a 1 in 100 type of query that is coming about by one user that doesn't find the system user friendly and 99 other people are? Then the practicalities of implementing is not viable for us. So obviously we will weigh out the pros and cons of that process. And with that, we are hoping then to be fully launched with all our applications in 2026. The idea is when we do have our December closure period, our last submission date would be the 21st of November when our mailbox then will shut down, as well as Sahris, and 2026 when everyone is fresh from their break, you will then be fully functioning on Sahris. That is the goal, but obviously through communications and changes, we will communicate that through to all our stakeholders if there are any shift into that spaces. So please, we encourage you to make use of the platform, share your experiences with us, and then your feedback will refine the strengthening of our system as well as Sahris themselves. So thank you very much for attending. We're going to do the Q&A session now. There is some questions that we've not answered during the chat. We have answered some of them in the chat and some have not been answered. Ruan, if you could facilitate that and we can proceed with the Q&As.
Thank you so much, Wasifa. So I think the best way to just run the Q&A session, we'll work on a hands first system. But before we open to hands, I'll just try and answer some of the questions that have been posted in the chat already. So I'll quickly run through some of them. So Stefan de Kok, how do we submit HIAs related to Section 38 applications submitted and decided/commented on prior to the migration to Sahris? Great question. We've received quite a few of those questions recently. Please just send it straight to the case officer. At the moment, we are aware that if the case does not exist on Sahris, you cannot link that HIA to the case. So eventually we'll get to the point where all the NIDs have been submitted on Sahris. So any incoming HIAs will be for those NIDs that are on Sahris. But during this transition period, the idea is that our NIDs are now hard launched and only available via Sahris, that submission process. But the HIAs you can just send directly to the case officer. The case officer will review and then load it for the next times if it's complete, or let you know if anything's outstanding. So kind of just processing that our way sort of pre-August still. I hope that answers your question. Anna-Marie Fick, how do you get a case number for a new case? Is it no longer necessary to have the property owner and applicant sign the application form? So two-part question. First part, how do you get a case number for a new case? You might have missed the first session where I just mentioned this, or the start of the session. In terms of our new notice, and I'll We'll see if I know that you're flagging this. I'm just going to quickly go back to flighting an application. So Anne-Marie, if you actually start applying, you'll see that there is this fees notice thing, and it specifically explains that you no longer need to get a reference number. The site details are to be used as the reference. So you grab the municipal jurisdiction, and if there are multiple ones, please just use the first one that's part of that municipal jurisdiction. So when you write the address in the application, when you write, Earth, just make sure this is the first number on the application. That's the reference you're using in your payment, so that finance are able to allocate it. And then in terms of the necessariness of a property owner and applicant to sign the application form, we will be distributing this shortly after the session. This is our new checklist, and you'll see that there is this section that explains that if you are not the registered landowner, so you're applying as a consultant, developer, representative, etc., the following documentation must be supplied to support your authorization to apply. So landowner consent, a power of attorney, and then if the registered landowner is a company or trust, we'll need a company or trust resolution. So that does not change. However, what is changing now is this is no longer a minimum requirement in terms of the 38.8 process when we're just commenting. So only if it's submitted in terms of 38.1. Let me just scroll up. I see, Jake, you've managed to answer some of the other questions. Ashley Hardy's question there. I'm just checking if there are any other pertinent questions. Lisa Milan mentioned something about, can you add diagrams in this section? I'm hoping as I went through the form that question was answered. If not, please just raise your hand when we get to that now, or ask your question again with some context. I'm just scrolling up. Wasifa has answered that. I think most of the other questions have been answered, so I'll just scroll to the bottom now. So the next question is, okay, Nazima, your question's been answered by Wasifa. The next one is from a Willem Kruger. Can you please expand on the process of a NID, section 38.1 and 38.8? Step 1, pay the fee of R1,500 to HWC and post the POP on the Sahris portal and complete the application. Step 2, once the NID has been reviewed by HWC, am I correct in saying that one would add a heritage report to complete the section 38 HI application, at which point the second payment will be made to HWC and the application complete on the Sahris portal? So that's a great question. So again, just to show you this here, when you are on that case, so let's say that for my example here, I have been, the decision has been further studies. So yes, what you do is you go to add heritage report and you'll upload your HIA via this process, and your proof of payment for the HI, the 2,500 Rand. The additional submission is the way to do that. So you just go here and you go to proof of payment and just follow everything, and you can upload your proof of payment there. I hope that answers your question there, Willem. We then move on to Tabiso. Do you invoice director of logging a case or prior direct mail to Michael and Rensburg? So if an invoice is required, yeah, as Wasifa has already mentioned, you can just email our admin team. I believe that's answered all the questions in the chat. I'm just running through them quickly because I'm assuming we will have quite a few questions. But if there are any more questions, now's the chance to verbalize those. So please just raise your hand so that we can, and only speak once you're called upon. So if you can raise your hand, I'll just call people out in that order. So Corley, you're the first one to raise your hand. Please ask your question, unmute and ask your question. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, I just want to quickly hear, is there, say for instance, somebody makes a mistake in the description on that sort of first part of filling in the NID, or the description of it, or the earth number or something like that is incorrect. Would the case officers pick that up, or is it checked by the case officers? That's the first part of it. And then the second part is, if you pick up yourself after it's been submitted, is there a way to go and correct that afterwards, or how do you go about doing that then?
Sure. Thank you for your question, Corley. So yes, I'll just display this again just to show you. So again, this is my example case. So yes, let's say that I have made an error in my description. I've maybe copied over a different application's description by accident. I only noticed it after submitting. So there are two kind of scenarios here. Let's say that the case status still says submitted or something. The case officer hasn't managed to review it yet. So the case officer will lock the application, meaning you can no longer edit it. But until the case officer has reviewed it and locked it, you are able to go into the form here and click on edit, and then you can change that kind of information. So let's say that, yeah, your proposal description was copied from something else, then you can edit it here, and you'll just at the end click submit again when you get to this last page, and it will update. So there is a way of doing that. However, once the case officer has reviewed it and they have locked it, then the best way to make changes to that application, again, you just go back to your application page, you go to add an additional submission, and there's a specific bit here for this thing called amendment/corrections. And then you can request the case officer to do it this way. So the idea of handling all this through the system is that, one, there's accountability. You can see exactly when you actually submitted this information. And two, it also reduces the emails from case officers. I cannot stress just how many emails the case officers actually sit with from applicants trying to handle small requests like this. This way, it's all centralized on the system. There's more accountability. Everything's linked to the case already. You don't need to have the complicated document management system on the side. It's all here in one place. I hope that answers your question, but please just unmute and let me know if you have a further question there.
Sorry, I just want to quickly follow up with that. It's just to get the situation where you, as an interested party, for instance, do a search and then the description is not correct, or they didn't put in the Stellenbosch or whatever, that section of the first page, whether that is checked and then somebody can pick it up. That's basically why I wanted to know. It's not necessarily just yourself going to look for it. It is about whether other people can also find it if it's incorrect. Thanks.
Thanks, Corey. Yes. So, I mean, it happens. People make mistakes and there might be errors captured. And maybe that means that an interested and affected party, while let's just, again, share, if you're going on sort of the application, the cases explorer function, and yeah, maybe you're specifically looking for an application that's related. So you might filter the stuff by saying, oh, the person will obviously say, you know, let's say I'm interested in the George ones. So then they might type George in here to filter it by George, but maybe George isn't captured in the title. So yes, again, this is just about how the user interacts with the system. That kind of situation may arise. Please just go through it and check. And then in terms of the case officer catching that kind of stuff, yes, the case officers are able to edit the NID forms, and we are trying to catch those mistakes or small errors that exist. But again, these we are sitting with a high caseload, so things creep through, as you know, with this stuff. And we try our best to just keep things as open as possible. And yeah, again, the more users that are active on the system, the more we kind of, as case officers, get applications in and we start catching those errors, or we get feedback from the public saying, oh, these are kind of errors that might occur as you're raising now, then we can go internally and say, okay, maybe our SOP needs a revision, or you need to draft an SOP specifically for how a case officer looks at that case to make sure that information like the town is captured, because that's how our user base might look for it. So I hope that provides some guidance. But again, we can have more discussions about this if you want to, but I think that kind of captures your main query. Jake, you're the next one with your hand raised.
Thanks, Saran. So not a question, just a comment that I'd like to make. People have become increasingly aware about the security of data and their own information. And so something I just wanted to highlight is that when you register for the usage of Sahris, you're able to do so, as Ruan explained and demonstrated, you're able to do it under your own recognizance. Your information, your profile information, we will never distribute it without your written permission outside of the heritage authorities. We will never sell it. We will never distribute it to search engines. We don't require a subscription fee for any of the usages of the system, and we don't show adverts or anything like that. The intention with Sahris is as a service and as a platform to enable and empower the heritage sector. So any usage that you have with the system, if you're concerned about potential forward-facing costs in terms of subscriptions for access or something like that, that is not something that Sahris is for. That's not something that we do. And I just wanted to mention that your information is securely stored, and it's not something that we will distribute without your consent. Thanks.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, Jake. Wasifa, your hand was raised, but it's gone down.
Yeah, it was more thank you, on Corley's comment earlier, and just something that we picked up this week with an application in terms of just our regular processing, where misinformation is provided and HWC is called out for why has this been processed. You as the applicant slash owner is responsible for the information that's before HWC. So when you do log in on Sahris and you're making the application, you are accepting the terms and conditions, and it's quite clearly spelled out there that the information you're providing in this application is true and accurate. So just to make sure before you submit, use that checklist that we will be distributing after this, to make all that information is there. So there's no legal ramifications in terms of HWC's decision. We are basing our decision based on the information that's before us. As you know, we're covering the entire province. Not everything does require site inspection or need us to go to site. So we can't verify everything. We use the information that you as an ethical and moral practitioner is doing and submitting to us accordingly. So please ensure that when you are submitting, you are ticking that box off, and you won't be able to move on behind there, because beyond that, the legal liability regarding the accuracy of information relies on you as the applicant.
Thank you so much for that, Wasifa, and just reiterating that to Corley. But yes, I'm just quickly sharing this to show you that there is this bit that says that the information that you are providing is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge. So you are agreeing to doing that when you're actually starting the application procedure. The next hand I saw, just before I jump to you, Antonia, I just want to quickly mention I see Cindy has asked a question about what is the difference between owner's consent and POA. So this can just differ a little bit in terms of a power of attorney is so what we're saying with owner's consent is that we need multiple forms of owner's consent. So this can come in the form of a power of attorney saying that we are giving you as Cindy the power to submit the application on our behalf. And then landowner consent is the actual thing saying, I consent to this application being lodged in terms of I want this application to be lodged. So it's just a double check in terms of making sure that there is a legal document that's speaking to you being empowered to submit that application. And the landowner consent is just in terms of the landowner being aware of what kind of application is being lodged. I hope that kind of provides some information. This is more relevant, I think, to our built environments applications. But maybe Wasifa, if you want to just expand on that in terms of our proof of ownership requirements.
Yeah, so Cindy, when it's multiple urban and like using ESCOM, for example, or roads development, and it cuts through various ownership, and the owner's consent is required for that, and you can't have a general power of attorney. You're acting on behalf of ESCOM or the DOI department, so that would be your power of attorney. Your owner's consent would be all of those cadastral farms or owners have been made aware of this application and have given consent for it. So there's a difference between the consent and the power of attorney. It's who you're acting on behalf of, who has appointed you, and the consent to actually do the development on their property.
Thanks, Wasifa. I hope that's answered your question, Cindy. And then Antonia, you're next.
I might be wrong, but I understood Corley to be approaching the issue of at what stage can either consultants or people involved in making applications or other people or registered conservation bodies or just general members of public who notice disinformation or misinformation, at what stage in the process can they engage with it? Is it directly with the case officer, or is it part of this public process?
Thank you, Antonia. That's a great question, especially in terms of future thinking. I'll briefly touch on it. I don't know if if you want to add more. But in short, at the moment, because of the way that HWC is structured, we have committees evaluating these applications and making decisions or resolving to issue certain comments. So what you have in that case is, let's say somebody notices disinformation, please, send a message to the case officer as soon as you can. And even more importantly, if you can attend one of those meetings, if you can attend a HOMS, if you can attend an ICOM if it's there, those are the platforms where the people are actually going to be sitting and making decisions, or resolving to issue certain kinds of comments. But I mean, Antonio, you're aware of how HWC works, but we really recommend, sending things to the case officer and being part of that public participation process, be as transparent as possible. We know that, applications like that occur, and we try and be on the lookout. But again, it's a big province to manage, and things slip through. So we really rely on the public to sort of enact the NAR in terms of its bottom-up approach of community involvement. So again, Sahris is trying to improve that by having a platform where people can now have better access to information to perhaps catch issues like disinformation. But I don't know, Wasif, if there's anything more you want to mention there in terms of Antonia's question.
More of a question to Jake on this. Can the system be, the little chat function or the commenting section? So if you are registered as an INAP or just a registered user and you spot something on an application, are they able to make a comment on that? Because then we'd be able to also see that there without having to contact somebody. Because then I know that you can make comments on submissions, but is that, am I maybe not understanding that process internally?
So in terms of the implementation of comments, so the way that the system works, so as Ruan showed earlier, a heritage case is visible to any member of the public. If you are a registered user and you're logged in, so as an applicant, any case that you go onto, you don't have to necessarily be the applicant, and you are able to make an additional submission onto that application. And one of the, if memory serves, one of the additional submission types is as a comment. And so this is intended as one of the specific mechanisms that allows, okay, no, I see there. So but the intention was to allow for comments to be submitted, which just to provide the kind of assembled user base a little bit of insight, when an additional submission is made to a case, it's flagged for the assigned officer. And so by embedding it in that mechanism, the intention is that the case officer is then immediately made aware of these additional comments that are made on the case, and then steps can be taken going forward from there. Now, in terms of the public visibility of those comments, because additional submissions are only visible by the author, the applicant, and the case officer, there's questions then about the public visibility of what those comments are, and that's something else that we're looking to at the moment in terms of implementation. But at the moment, the intended mechanism is through the additional submissions.
Thank you so much for the clarity there, Jake. And I think just as a final thing there, we've had some discussions about getting conservation bodies registered on Sahris and having a better way of them actually commenting on applications. And I think especially when we get to our built environment stuff, our Section 34, Section 27, because that's the bulk of the applications, we'll probably see some movement there in terms of how the conservation bodies will interact with the system. But great question, Antonia, and I hope that has provided some clarity, and that Jake has also shown you a mechanism for which that can get lodged. And again, this would reduce emails to the case officer. But again, this is kind of a very rare situation. So please also just email the case officer, and hopefully a process can be followed internally to also sort out any issues that arise that relate to your query. Are there any other questions or hands? I don't see any in the chat. I'm also happy to take feedback if there are things that people have interacted with and they feel that we could improve on that. This is also not a bad place simply because of the kind of people that are in attendance to actually say, I feel very strongly about this functionality, needing that on Sahris, or saying maybe this is an overkill. So if anybody has feedback in that regard, please raise your hand. Dave, yes, I see you've raised your hand. You have the floor. Dave, you're not audible. Dave, I'm not able to hear you. Not sure if you're having some issues with your mic. If you are unable to resolve it, perhaps just try and type your query in the chat box and we can communicate that way. Just a quick question in the chat as well, Stephen. Recording of this presentation will be made available. We've actually recorded them as sections, and we'll be letting everybody know about where you can access those recordings so that they can be referred back to. Hopefully when you're busy with your applications in the future, there's something to refer to that will assist you. I don't see any other hands. I'll just wait a little bit for Dave's question to come through in the chat box, perhaps. Dave, if you could just give me a thumbs up or something to indicate that you are typing your question in the chat box, just to make sure that I'm not just keeping everybody here waiting for something that might not come. Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands, and I just see a few. Some comments in the chat box just thanking us for the presentation. Again, from our side, we just want to thank you also as the industry, everybody involved here. Heritage is changing, and we are keeping up with the times as best as we can, moving forward with everything, and really trying our best to do good by heritage and the industry from HWC side. So I think, there's no more questions. So I'm just going to kind of bring this all to a close. And again, thank everybody that's been involved. I have already thanked some people, but the big thank I also want to give is just the internal team at HWC. Coming into HWC from Sahris side, I came with a certain perspective, and HWC has really been a fantastic place to learn about heritage management and improve how we're doing this. So to the officers, to the admin staff, to management staff at HWC, to everybody, it really has been fantastic. To our committee members as well, a lot of you are active users. We really appreciate everything, and we hope that we can work together going forward still and just keep on improving how we do stuff and really lead the way. So thank you all so much for attending today. If you have other questions, send them through an email format. We will hopefully deal with them that way. And as we've said, the information will be shared. We'll also share contact details for people at Sahris. So from Jake, we'll probably just share, Jake, your details and Nancy's details. Nancy is the system administrator. Those are your main people with Sahris queries. And then from our side, if there's specific issues relating to maybe documentation requirements for your NID or other things, get those to us. But thanks so much. I'm going to officially close the session. For those of you that are interested, we will be having future engagements when we get to launching our built environments applications and our APM and BGG things. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope you've learned something.